dude, experience is the best teacher. The internships helped me, got real world experience. And I think that's like the best advice I can give to anyone starting out, especially in college, was right when I graduated, dude, I was like ready to, I had a job.
Welcome to Creative Leadership with Heart, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of creative leadership. I'm your host, Rico Nasol. Join me as we explore the transformative impact of heart-centered leadership in today's creative and design organizations. What's up, all? Welcome back to Creative Leadership with Heart. Today, one of my good friends, I haven't talked to him for a while. It's been a minute, but a great story to tell, and someone I've been following his career for a long time. We got Bryan Villagonzalo here, senior product designer at Intuit. Did work at NBC. We hooked up at Netflix. He was at VMware, did some cool product design work there, and he's now at Intuit. How you doing, Bryan?
Man, I'm doing great. It's good seeing you again, Rico. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. And we'll just get into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey and why design. What was it about design that stole your heart?
Yeah, man. It was great. Like every creative, like mine was like aesthetic based, like design. So grew up drawing comic books, like paintings, all that like fun stuff. But I think the differentiator too was I was really into like technology, meaning like spaceships, taking apart radios, and like seeing problem solving. And I think it helped too because my dad was in the Air Force. I grew up in Air Force Base, so it was like the melding of like technology, products, and also like drawing. So it's like drawing blueprints, like is a thing. Went to school, the traditional high school stuff. Always did art. I was known as the artist, but it wasn't really till college where I was like, I don't want to be known as an artist. I would be known as a creative because you can do like a lot more things than just draw. Because I was like, hey, I'm multifaceted. Let's like show that off. So I went to school for one of the most like multifaceted majors, motion graphics, because it's graphic design. It's a technical aspect. There's some programming. It's um, it's commercial, but it's also interaction like at a time. And then luckily for me, went to school at Cal State Long Beach, go beach to the state schools, like Hollywood, so many internships, bro. It was crazy. Like I know some people go to like private schools and they have to go through this rigorous curriculum. Mine was, dude, experience is the best teacher. The internships helped me, got real world experience. And I think that's like the best advice I can give to anyone starting out, especially in college, was right when I graduated, dude, I was like ready to, I had a job. It was cool. It was at an agency, but like agency is a whole nother topic. Like that's a great place to get your chops going. You learn how to work. And I hope to communicate like being a workhorse and just like being willing to work. It'll go a long way.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I'm with you. I'm 100%. Like nothing against anyone who goes for masters and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but it's almost like the school of hard knocks, right? Like I'd rather go do it than go study about how other people did it and then try to figure out how to do it myself, right? So when people were going to get their like MBAs and stuff like that, I was like creating content before content creator was a thing. Like I was at Zappos, like creating videos, creating this stuff, and that's my, I guess, school of hard knocks PhD. You
Mhm.
learn, you build things, and you trial and error. Um,
Yeah, in a weird way too. There's something about I mean, I love sports. I know we talk about like NBA a lot. There's this like feeling of like, hey, I'm in the industry, I'm in the league, and the people I'm learning from are actually like they're accessible. Like you're, either working next to them or you're competing for jobs like against them. And so it's like a whole different dynamic too of like, dude, I belong here. And we can get into imposter syndrome later, but there's also like a beauty of like I'm learning on the job. I'm getting paid to learn rather than paying to learn.
yeah. What was that moment for you when you knew like this is what I want to do?
Super ego trip was work like when I jumped into After Effects, I was like, this is very technical, but if you have like a good eye, like graphic design, or you just know the basic design principles, you can actually solve a problem for someone. And it's like, oh my god, you made it move, or you made it like go up and down, or you edit that. That's great. And I was like, whoa, wasn't really that hard, but it gave like people so much joy, and also like, man, you actually make money doing this. Like, all right, I'm in. And so I think that was like my moment. And then like even to add that on top was my first like commercial piece that went live was like a Billboard Music Awards like 2011. Like this was the time like Bieber was hot. Like it was like Bieber, Eminem, and Rihanna, like Lady Antebellum. Like that's how dated it was. But just making the graphics card for that, and then coming home and telling my parents like, "Hey, we're on NBC, like ABC. watching a Billboard Music Awards, and I'm like, hey, I designed that text and those like animations. I think that was it. After that, I was hooked.
Nice. So that's amazing actually to have your parents see your work live because I don't think my parents could even to this day tell you what I do. They could tell you
Bro,
where I worked and all the different places I've worked, but they could not tell you what I did. And maybe that's the old school Filipino thing. They're just like they don't understand the technology. But for you, that must have been cool for your parents to see work you've done, and to like for us humble Filipinos are like that's on nationwide or the world is seeing that on TV. How was that?
it's great. I just want to acknowledge that, like, yeah, I'll show my parents still don't know exactly what I do. Sometimes they'll, I don't know if everyone else sees this as immigrant parents. They say like they correlate the internet or apps as like, oh that's Facebook. He works like I'm like I don't work at Facebook.
Or that's Apple.
Oh, that's Apple. Like he works on this, and it's like, oh, you mean the phone? I'm like, no, it's an application like on the phone or something on TV. So it's cool. It's a different generation, right? Like my
Yep.
parent, like my dad, like ex-military. That's like 20 years. Other job, another 20 years. My mom's school district, 20 plus years. Like they're in the school of like, hey, you stick to a job, you stay there forever. I think us is we have so much mobility, and I think knowledge, of course, knowledge and skill like allow that. Um, but it was a great joy to like show that to my parents. And I guess the best moment of that is like, oh, you're not going to be broke being an artist. I was just like, I'm not an artist. I'm a creative. I'm a designer. There's like a difference. And I can't even get into the academic background of like explaining artist versus designer because my parents don't care. They're just like, hey, he's making money as a job. We did our job right. I'm like, cool, thanks, mom. That's all you gotta say.
Yeah. I want to get into your personal mission, but there's some stuff in there that I want to get into too, because I think, we have similar backgrounds, parents are
Mhm.
similar. They both were like my mom was a nurse for like 40 years,
Yeah,
right? And my dad was also he was in education for like 35 years or something insane, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that kind of immigrant mentality, because we're first generation, right?
Correct.
So that immigrant mentality of like you can be anything you want as long as it's a doctor, a nurse, or a
Accountant.
lawyer, right? Or accountant, right? Um, how did that impact you and like your creativity or like wanting to kind of buck the trend, not going into the military or education?
Yeah, that's a good one because I think about that. Like, there's always jokes. I'm like, hey, you're like a Filipino that's not a nurse or like an accountant. I'm like, well, fintech is kind of close. Um, but I think I attribute that a lot to growing up in like Long Beach, California, like Los Angeles, that area is because it's so diverse. And then, oh, people always like say we want diversity in our company, and I'll go to my personal mission later. But like, I really think that was the strength of it because you see, you're around so many different people. So yeah, strong connection to the Filipino community, but I also grew around like everybody else. And so there was like a good mixture of like, yeah, some when we go to college or you go to high school, people were like, I really want to be a nurse. I really want to be a doctor or accountant. And it also helped that some of my cousins didn't do that as well. Cause it's like, hey, just find something you're good at. And then this is America. You can find a career path for it. And also, like, man, looking back, like, when you're young, you're fighting with your parents. I'm like, now I'm older. I'm like, damn, man, they actually did it right. They were just kind of like, look, you're going to live and die by your decision. So pick something and just be good with it. So I support him with that. The downside is though, like you're forging your own path. It's really hard to find like a mentor or like being motivated because those doors are not like, I don't want to say accessible, but we don't like I didn't know about them because no one did it yet in like our family group or in our community, right? It's like, well, who do I talk to? There's no one that looks like me. There's no one with the same last name as me. So it takes a while. And so but luckily again, like, people are really cool that I've just been very lucky that people have cool I've been working with and they left the door open for me. And then it goes into personal mission, man. I gotta do the same thing, but I gotta leave it even wider. So and I attribute a piece of that to you too, man. So it's like that. Like you have to find your own motivation, your own like community.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm 100% agree. And I almost have to I had to use my parents as an example to like put that logic in their face almost, right? Because our parents came here to give us a better life, right? And they probably bucked the trend. They went against their parents. Like I know my parents did. My mom was supposed to be a teacher and like stay on the farm in the Philippines. Same with my dad. But they both said no, we're going to the US because we want a better life. Came here with $50 in their pocket.
Oh
My
man.
dad had a like a master's degree in mechanical engineering and he couldn't get a job. He had a job as a janitor, right? Like that's all anyone would give him back then. But so what I say is like you brought us here, you came here, to have a better life. Let me experience that. Let me take advantage of the things that you had to do, and I will not fail you, right? Like I wasn't that bold, but like, and that's
Yeah.
how I was thinking in my head. I'll make it worth you going through all that sacrifice. Um, and it's the best. That's if we didn't do that, I think we would be doing our parents a disservice. If we kind of just did whatever was easy, I think we would do them a disservice because they went through so much hardship to get us here and to open the door for us, right? And it's maybe a good segue to get into your personal mission because yeah, like that's what we do. And hopefully, what I would do with you, I always challenge you. Like, can you do more? Think about it this way. Think about it bigger. Don't think small. Think big because big is hard, and the harder we push, the farther we can go.
Damn, I like that. Yeah, personal mission was, and it took a while to get there because I realized, like, man, the higher you go up, there's less people that look like you, right? And it's not, look, people can say, like, oh my God, like, I feel attacked or whatever. Like, I don't. I'm just like, okay, cool. Like, I got here, proof other people can too. Let me see how I can get more diverse pool of interns, or how can I get, or just influence hiring in a certain way, right? It's like, you have like, in tech, very criticized that, especially fintech, like it's the same type of people. Like, here's your like Stanford grads, we have our NYU, Harvard, like the cream of the crop, right? Regardless of like their cultural background, I still feel like they're thinking the same way because they came from these institutions. So what I'm like personal, like my personal mission is like, yo, can we just get like one or two? Let me get a couple in from like state schools, like inner city like youth, just to know, like, yo, these things exist. You don't just have to like strive to be like, hey, I work at a big company as like you just work at Intuit, or you just work at Meta, or you work at Zappos, or you work at Netflix. Like, no, no, no. I want you to think even deeper. It's like, look, let me show you how the sausage is made, where you're working at these big companies, but you're actually making the product. I think that's like the next goal, because I know there's a lot of groups that say, hey, you can get in here, but I almost feel like they're a little capped. I was like, look, I'm in here, I'm literally making these things millions of people are using, right? And then my team is super diverse too. And it's like, we want to showcase that. So we'll talk about more things that I'm proud of, is like highlighting that. And it's so hilarious to me that that's other companies are scrambling to do that and showcase, like, look how diverse we are, or look how we're recruiting. I'm like, dude, we've already been doing it. It's because like people like myself and then like other leaders in the company already had that thought, like, we make software for everyone. We should be more reflective of what everyone like not only looks but thinks like, or background. So like my personal mission is like, yo, let's get some of these kids from Cal State LA, Cal State Long Beach, or other places where you wouldn't think to get talent is there. Remember, Jordan was drafted third. Kobe like 16th, right? Steph was like, I know you're
Nine.
Warriors fan. They were drafted not as high as people thought. So you got to like look for talent where you just got to look a little bit harder. You can find some good talent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a product of a state school, and I'm proud
Yeah.
of it, right? And it's you bring up a really good point, right? Because you look at some of these places, yeah, Stanford, Wharton, Harvard,
Oh my God.
whatever, right? And to be honest, I had imposter syndrome because of that, because I would sit in a room like these executives at Netflix, right? And you look around the table, and it's like Brown, this, that, Stanford,
Yeah.
whatever, and then I'm like, dude, I went to Sacramento State,
Oh
right?
man, that's
And then
right.
you look
You did.
MBA, MBA, MBA,
NBA.
MBA, MBA, bachelor's in like I was even in communication studies. I'm not even like in tech. I don't have a tech degree, but it's because it wasn't my background and it wasn't my credentials. It was the way I approached the work, right? And I think that's the thing to take away from what I hear you saying, right? Is like we just need to create more access for people who are good at the work. Who cares where they came from? Who cares about like what people say about the colleges they go to. Like even when I was in hiring for folks on the team, I never looked at school. I never looked at like there's people that were on creative studio that didn't even have degrees,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Right. People
interesting
that
about our
were
industry.
working at like a kid's gym. Like we had someone that was working at a kid's gym who's like a very high level. He knows who he is. He's like a very high level contributor on the labs team, right? There's a lot of people that didn't have degrees or didn't have that traditional background. But and I don't even wanna say we took a chance. We just gave them the opportunity and they kicked the door open, right? Like, that's what
Mhm.
you can find because folks who come from those communities oftentimes are more scrappy. Like, and I know how I was. Like, I just wasn't gonna fail. I didn't wanna let myself fail.
I agree. But also, like, I want to be realistic too. Like, hey, sometimes you're going to have to take a chance on some people. Like, it takes a while for them to pan out because of, like you said, like, I want to acknowledge that there's imposter syndrome that comes with a lot of their like people's experiences growing up. Maybe they don't got that motivation. Like, I'm super confident, but like, that's an extrovert. I respect people who are introverted and like who don't just like talk their way out of a situation. Like, they have to take time to think, and that could be perceived as like, are you not working hard? And so, um, I agree with you. I think it's the institution, like the team. It's like, hey, I'm not taking the chance, but I'm giving you the opportunity. It's up to you what you do with it. Because I mean, think it's for better or for worse. I still have that Netflix mentality. Like, hey, we're not a family. We're like, this is a sports team. There's some grace, but we need to get like we need to ship some of these products because at the end of the day, like it's a business.
Yeah.
But unless we have equal opportunity, that's the most important part.
Yeah, and someone I'm glad you pointed it out. Thank you for pointing that out, right? Like, I mean, you have to have some skills, right? So,
Yeah.
um,
I want to be realistic too.
yeah, but some things like we got creative, right? For example, um, we didn't get to necessarily hire anyone, but we were looking for sound designers,
Mm.
and right, sound designers is 99% white male. Right? I don't
Yeah,
think anyone listening to this is gonna be surprised by that. So, like, if you're like, "No, it's not," like, it's 99%, at
99,
least in
babe.
Hollywood, right? In Hollywood. And so what we did was we started to talk to and train and educate women that were music sound engineers. So people that were mixing down soundtracks, right? For like different record labels. And that is way more diverse than sound design in Hollywood. And so, like, it's even about getting creative like that. Like, what are the skill sets that translate from more diverse communities, right? So,
I
mixing
I want
down is a directly related skill set.
I want to touch on that too. For everyone that's on the call, because product designer specialty is like visual design for Intuit, right? Let me explain my role a little bit. So I'm on like it's Intuit, and then I'm on QuickBooks specifically, and then the team I'm on is called like Money. So we're in charge of invoicing, payments, banking, onboarding, a lot of those stuff to make the money move. And so huge company. I mean, dude, we have like thousands of designers, couple design systems. Problem with that is we strive for platform cohesion. So what I do is like I'm responsible for this org, working for this team that we utilize the design system. We don't break patterns, we don't make bespoke things because you want to make sure we're using the right components and patterns. So engineering works really well. So I explained a lot there. So we talk about transferable skills. Like if you're not good at the software like Figma or whatever, dude, you can learn that.
Mhm.
There's like these there are some things that's like you're not the best at Figma, but you'll pick it up really quickly. The things that we're looking for is can you communicate? Do you know how to like um concept ideas based on like the problem that's there? And also like I mean, we talk about it, no ego, amigo, but it actually goes a long way because we're working on very like stressful like sprints and like being personable actually goes a long way and being like flexible too of like hey I know I scoped this like for 3 days but it's actually 5. Can you keep designing this a little bit more and you can also say no like that's a skill too but I just want to zoom back to what you're saying like it's not a, it's it this the tools are important the technical acumen that's very important but it's not the most important the most especially with AI which I do a lot of videos on my channel on Instagram at IamBryanVia.com is that that's my plug that AI can actually do a lot of these redundant roles especially now more than ever
Mhm.
um so what are you bringing that's different that than AI can't do dude you can concept you know the product you know the customer so these are things that's like, hey, I don't know the software yet, but don't matter. I know how to talk to people. I know how to write. It's like use that, leverage that as your skill set coming in the door.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Um, Dude, we can do a whole another one about AI. Let's not get into that because we'll
Okay,
be
okay.
talking
We'll
for
save that
like
for
a
a different
few
one.
hours.
Yeah, I know. I know. We'll save that
Maybe
for a different day.
we'll have you back. I'll have you back and we talk about that. So, you know what? You wanted to talk about imposter syndrome. You mentioned that you wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
And you're an extrovert. I'm the complete opposite. I'm introvert. I like my quiet, and I usually need to recharge after. So, what were some of the? I don't know if imposter syndrome was one of the challenges, but what were some of the challenges for you coming up in your industry?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the imposter syndrome was hard. I want to relate back to the bigger companies like the NBCs and then like the Netflix, like working at like NBC Universal, like imposter syndrome. Yeah, it was hard because Hollywood studios have a way of like the producer like runs the show, because which is like very interesting when you like look back at it. I'm like, actually, you're the one that knows the least about everything. It's just like a bureaucracy, and you don't have the power to manifest the work. Like you can't like make the ambiguous tangible, right? It's what we always talk about. Like I have a great leader at Intuit that said, she says that a lot. Like you make like the ambiguous like possible, like tangible. Um, so like the hardest part there was imposter syndrome. Like, do I belong here? There's is it, you know, it's like, man, I feel like I'm super young. Like I'm like I listen to like hip hop music. Like I wear Jordans. Like in these meetings, people are wearing like slacks and like the powder blue shirts. There's like a lot of I have tattoos. It was like I felt that way. So I felt like I was trying to fit in as like a cog in the machine when I was at NBC. But as I got more confident and the work started to speak for itself, you're right. Like like it was okay to just like express who I am and also like speak up in meetings because I achieved some work. I think that's the most important part too, where people start respecting the work because they see it and they're like, oh man. And there's a part of it romanticized, like, oh, you're an artist, you're a designer, you're supposed to be a little weird. So like, yeah, whatever. It's like a little license for me. At Netflix, the hardest part, very similar to you, where I saw colleagues, although like my resume was pretty good, like worked on like some Super Bowls and Sunday night and some Kardashian shows. It's like I'm like, oh man, these people are coming from, and Netflix was interesting because you would be higher, you come from a higher level at your previous company, and then you're like one or two levels down at Netflix, where like, oh, the person I'm working with was like, oh, I did the whole campaign for American Horror Story. I'm like, what the fudge? Like, here, and so the imposter syndrome started seeing like, well, I'm on an all-star team. What where can I get in and fit in? And it took a while, man. Like, I was like, what, where, like, why am I even here? Like, you already have someone that can do this job. So I think that was just being young too, and just being in an environment, a hyper like end of the spectrum of like, what happens if just everyone's good? It's like, dude, it's hard to get playing time. It's hard to get like some FaceTime or even talking to meeting because everyone wants to like get their 2 cents out when a leader's in there. And so that was like the biggest challenge for me. Plus, I was just like a little wet behind the ears. I look back now, I'm like, dude, if I just led with data, like data from users, or led with data from a design system point of view, or even just question data, I think like where I'm at now in my career, like there's no more imposter syndrome because it's like, dude, I built it. I have the files. I have the PRDs, which is a product requirement doc for those who are not PMs. Like I as a designer, you're right. Some people think of it, in some orgs think of it as a service role. Knowing what I know now, I'm modeling from really great leaders like at Intuit, dude, and you too. It's like, no, you could be design led, or you can be pretty damn close to being design led. Like PRDs come out, yo, they're for the whole team. You have edit access. Write some comments. If when a leader's like, any questions, dude, I'm formulating 3 questions in my head. I'm just trying to get that mic just to get some FaceTime as like a design org. That like we have a voice, like we're not just pushing pixels. So I like, again, contrast it imposter syndrome because I wasn't confident. I didn't ask questions. But as I did more work and I got more confident because the work was received very well, I started like leaning in more. And so that's something I want people to like take away too. Like do some work, show it off, and then really capitalize when you're getting hot. Like just start asking questions.
Yeah, that's great advice. I would rewind that and listen to that again if
Yeah.
you're listening, because there's some really great stuff in there, and especially like like just showing the work and doing the work. And there was something that I can't think. I'll remember when I get back to it, but
Okay.
there was something specific that you said that triggered me to shoot, I can't think of it now.
Which
Man,
one was it?
there was a lot of gold in there, and like
I know
I was
I
like,
did.
"Oh,
I
thinking
packed
of."
it pretty good.
Yeah, you did pack it pretty good. But I'm sure it'll come back to me.
Yeah, we're gonna
But
reset.
in terms of the imposter syndrome, what are the things that, yeah, you did the work, but what about the internal work? Like how did you get that confidence? Was it just because people were giving you feedback, but what gave you that confidence to speak up?
Oh yeah. Help of a mentor really, really works. I know there's how do you pick a mentor? Like it doesn't have to be in the same org as you or the same company. It could be someone whose career is adjacent to yours, or even not. Like I've one of my mentors, she's at like Meta, and she's not even a designer, dude. She's like a director, just manages people. but I ask her a lot of soft skill questions. Another mentor I have is at Intuit, and he's an engineering director, and I ask him about life questions. And the imposter syndrome started to disappear, and I'm doing the internal work because hearing people who are really high up and you explain to them, this is how I'm feeling, what is it? They validate that and say, like, dude, me too. I felt that way 20 years ago. That's normal. It's okay. What you got to do is XYZ, or have you considered this? And like the help of seeing someone who's successful really high up, like, and everyone's like view of success is different. Mine is, yeah, you're a director, you manage people, you have impact on the product, do what you like, but you also have work life balance, like, wife, kids, pick a fence, have a cool hobby. And it's like, dude, yeah, you got it all. Give me some advice. Like, I have some questions to ask you. And then you start like seeing like, oh, okay, these are just human problems. Like, you'll slowly kind of just like, along with doing the work, I just want to emphasize, you got to do the actual work that people see, like that imposter syndrome starts to like decrease less and less, and then you get the confidence, and the confidence is because you're making work, and also you have like a phone a friend at any moment, you can talk to your mentor.
Yeah. No, that's great. Like I truly believe in mentors. Like I had a bunch along the way and like I wouldn't be where I am without them. And some knew they were, some didn't.
Yeah, that's true
But they
too. You want
yeah.
to, I think you should tell people that too. They don't have to know that they're mentoring you, because they could feel weird about it too.
Yeah. Like Steve Johnson was a big one for me. And I was lucky enough to have like a every 2 weeks we met and there were just one-on-ones, right? And I would ask him organizational questions, personal questions, like whatever, anything. And he was an open book and always willing to take my calls, answer my texts, like take my meetings and all that stuff. And yeah, he helped me a lot. And I remember what I was going to say was because you brought up points in there about like design has a voice, right?
Mm,
And so oftentimes w- design, like we expect everybody just to understand the value of design. Like, why don't you value design, right? Like we throw our hands up because like, dude, design's important. And if you don't can't see that, then like why don't you? And like there's a little bit of truth to that. But like I like what you said, where it's like you kind of have to tell people why it's important and you have a perspective and you have a point of view because then you can tell them what good looks like from a design perspective because if they're product managers or engineers, they're going to tell you what good looks like from their perspective, and that means a feature that just works and code that has no bugs, right? That's what good looks like for a PM
yeah,
and a
it's
and
shipped on
a
time.
engineer, right? But for design, it's like no, but it has to be simple, it has to be intuitive, and it can't get in your way, right? So like that's a different perspective than the other two. So sometimes if we as a design organization or creatives don't speak up for our craft, no one else will. And I don't want to say that it's on us to do because it's almost like asking the minority to teach the majority about
Yeah,
DEIB, right? But still progress to be made, they first have to be educated on what that looks like.
100%. And then just a couple strategies that I've implemented on how to do that too. I've always been told, like, well, if design wants a seat at the table, sometimes you just gotta like rock the table a little bit to like, hey, let me pull up a seat. Let me show you like what I got. And like what value it brings to the customer. Again, like bringing data, like customer VOC, because at Intuit, it's like, I mean, dude, it's on the building. Like, we're customer obsessed. Once customers like say things, again, we don't design what the customer is asking for. It's more what they need. But you can have data and say, like, look, we X amount of customers are saying this, and they're requesting this feature. Let's consider building this feature, but let's ask why they need this feature. And then maybe it's fixing something that was broken, or it's maybe simple as like, oh yeah, they just need this feature. And then you can see retention go up, utilization goes up, and then that's a win. Like, PMs love that data, and I love it too, because it's, end of year conversation. End of year conversation is basically like, for people who are entering the field, like, you're going to have a performance evaluation which you're participating in. And I did it with I don't know if I did it with you, Rico, because maybe you were like one level like above or two levels removed from me. But like, you would have evaluation of your peers, and you have evaluation, your self evaluation, but you have to bring up data to justify, like, I want more money, or more stock, or I want a promotion. And you can look to that, like, this is important, because let's be real, some people are getting into this field because it's a very popular field, but it's also competitive. You want to come in saying, like, as a designer, I made this impact, I reduce errors by X percent, I increased utilization by this percent. or I just like sped up development by using the right components. That's another thing too. So you look at it from that angle, like design, and this is like one of these like advice things where like early grads, it's a pitfall. Be careful for people who are getting into their first job. They think their first project, their first design is going to save the company. I'm like, dude, Intuit's been here for 40 years. It's worth like a lot of $1 billion. Like, we'll be fine. It's more like you have to solve things over a period of time. Like what have you done for the org over a course of 1 year? Like you can really see the impact that you make.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think any company, especially as one the size of Intuit, gets saved by one specific product,
Yeah,
right?
or
Especially
one
one
screen.
version of a product.
Yeah, you think
What was
one
that?
screen is like, yeah, like I got to make this one screen have all this information and like all these access points. I'm like, as my professional opinion as a visual designer on the components, this is a nightmare. You should not. And also, it's funny how I phrase my words because I can't tell a grown adult what to do. I'm like, my professional recommendation is as a visual designer, you should not do this. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
recommend you don't. I recommend these options instead. So I kind of look at it from like that point of view too.
Nice. So you said advice. So I want to get into that piece.
Yeah.
What is one or maybe two pieces of advice you have for folks either starting, maybe struggling, or wanting to get into the creative field?
Yeah. I just want to acknowledge when we say creative um, in software or software adjacent, it doesn't mean can I draw? Can I be a graphic designer? No, man. Those are tools in your toolbox as a creative, right? As a designer. I want to throw it out there. There's some designers that don't make anything aesthetic at all. It's just purely they design the workflow as a solution or they design the architecture of a system. That's purely valid. So that's like if that's a path, if that's a strong suit, like go for it. Mine is like I love designing the UI and like at scale. So just want to throw that out there for the people listening. Some advice. Here's the best advice when you start a new company or you start a new job. I have this trademark three chilies approach to design, and it's a three chili strategy. Okay, bear with me.
Ooh,
First
about to drop
chili.
some gold here.
This is gold. Okay. My team loves it so much they put it in my mid-year and yearly reviews.
Is this
And
patented? Because we need to. It's
I,
copyrighted.
yeah, well, Intuit owns it, they own the work.
All right,
But
go for
like,
it.
right, throw one chili emoji. Ding. First is just do what's asked. Use off-the-shelf components. If here's the brief, here's the problem, just give what whoever's requesting the work or like the team, just give like the baseline and say like, if we just do what you just asked, this is what it looks like. Strategically, it's to show that like, hey, it's actually kind of dull. Or on the flip side, dude, it's actually we solved it right there. Okay, because there's constraints such as time, budget, engineering support. There's a lot of things that can factor into it, but give just what's asked, and it shows that you're not like going rogue. Just give the team what asked. One chili, two chili is an improvement on the one. So this is where you can start. What two chili ding? Like you can start like tweaking some of the things or up leveling, right? Like maybe use some more. Maybe we can use an illustration. Maybe we can use like a motion graph, like an animation, maybe different types of text. We can change the scale, color, rearrange some buttons to be a different type of components, maybe a switch or toggle instead of a whatever checkbox, whatever, like other things. So that's two chili. Two chili is like a good spot you want to be in because it's the risk is acceptable. It actually up levels, makes people excited. Three chili is I never expect any product team to pick a three chili approach. Three chili ding is the hottest, the spiciest take. Where if I had unlimited engineers, and this is pure, like I'm just
Mhm.
iterating, breaking stuff. Like if I just imagine something to be perfect, what would it look like from a design point of view? And that's just to spark a conversation, like a what if. Also, you want to do that as a designer, so people always view you as like, man, Bryan has some good ideas. We can implement some of those, but some of them, if we distill it down, there's some gold there. And so start with that. The problem I've seen with people who enter the industry or new hires, because I don't want to say like young because it's new hires or
Right.
early career, is that here's a brief, here's a request, and they start off on the three chili approach. So like we look at crit and we're like, what happened here? This is like supposed to be like a 1 day, maybe 3 day engineering effort. This looks like a 3 month engineering effort. Are you showing me you're listening? And so We talk about building trust and showing good work. Start with the one, give them what they want. Most of the time, that solves it. And then the second one is where you can have some fun, where like, hey, what if we up level the design? Check this out. People start respecting you because you have a vision. Third chili is you don't do it all the time, but sometimes you just want to show some really crazy badass work. And then they just like, people just like clap and be like, oh, that's cool. We can't build it, but like, I appreciate you
Yeah.
trying.
Oh man, I gave you a lot of 3 chili work, didn't I?
You give me a lot of things. A lot of our stuff, I will say people don't know it because I can't release it, but man, we had some firework, Rico. Like I look at the product like what we're like 6 years removed from like
Yep.
Netflix.
Yep.
I see a few of it trickle down like every now and then when I open the UI, and I'll just be like,
Yeah.
did someone find our old file or this? I'm just like, I guess not saying I have the hard drive, don't come at me, but I'm just like, I was like, huh, I remember
No, I
that.
mean there was a lot of stuff that you and I talked about that never got around to being built when we were there.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
things come around. Things come around.
Yeah, it's cool. I
Um,
mean, we're on to next journey of our lives. It's up for the next
yeah.
next people to do it.
Yeah. So I also want to talk about like what else are you getting into? So like you're designing into it, you're also like creating a lot of content. Like
Yeah,
what else can people get from you online and if they follow you?
yeah. So two things. Like I love that you're doing these videos. It actually inspired me to do mine, but we have a different tone and voice, so different brand. um, it's so interesting. We talk about impact, right? So how something I started at work where I just wanted to tell people how to use primary, secondary, and tertiary buttons, like call to action buttons. And I started like, no one's going to read this like report or this like Slack message. What if I just make a video? And it started off as like Brian snacks and patterns. So I started making internal videos. You think I'm crazy, but it's like this is how you use the different types of like links in our design system because we have a very robust system, and it's QuickBooks. We also have like Intuit owns TurboTax, like Credit
Hmm.
Karma. There were different design systems, so I want to be crisp on where to use them. I did that starting like 2022, and I there was a time I was knocking out like every other week. So I have a huge library. Leadership saw it and was like, "Yo, we want to rebrand this into something bigger design community." So I basically got acquired, which is a dream, by like one of like the VPs of design, super cool guy. Like I look up to him. He's like an unofficial mentor as well, and he
Yeah.
partnered me up with his direct reports, and she's super high up. She's gonna watch this interview. So Tina, yeah, you're the best. So we started doing these together of tackling more complex problems, right? Like in messaging what design is and technology, right? Like really specific things. So those are proprietary. Like I can't share those anywhere else, but like people
Yeah,
in the
no worries.
company love them, and I make them fun. And I know we're hiring like Gen Z. Hell, it's going to be a huge user base in like 2030. So training videos are like this format, like landscape. I started making them all on Instagram and TikTok, like as a format, but I throw them in After Effects and Premiere to like really spike, make it look cool.
Of course
Because
you do. Of course you do.
I do, of course I do.
It's you.
This is me, and remind you, no one asked me to do this. I was just like, yo, I'm having fun, and also I'm tired of getting asked the same questions. So I started doing these just for my org of just like, man, 15 people, blew up to 40 people. Now we're in like a whole like business segment, like hundreds of people are seeing our videos, and it was great for my brand because people see me as like, yo, this is a designer that knows the components inside and out, which I don't. I know how to find resources because I do my research, but now the perception is that Bryan knows his stuff, which I do, but I don't know everything, but I can find out how to answer it. And then I started, and I love that, gave me energy. Then I was like, look, I really want to talk about Gen AI. I want to talk about other art things too, but maybe these topics are not appropriate for work. Maybe they're like Polish poster design. That's a video on my channel. Like Gen AI. I was like, you know what? I can just do that on my own. And so I I already learned. We talked about learning on someone else's
Yeah.
company teaching you, company encouraged me to do this for them, which we knock out like 2, 3 videos a month. And that's self-imposed. No one's telling me to do that. We just did it. And so even better when other people are hosting the videos, not just me. So I've scaled it. I have proved I have built something at scale. And now I'm
Nice.
doing my own videos on my channel to talk about at that same altitude too. Like, hey, here's some like Gen AI tips on prompt writing. Here's how you use like Midjourney. Here's how you use Chat GPT. and then the other ones I'm gonna like now been invited to conventions. So like I went to Adobe Max. I'm gonna have a video dropping on that, like a variety of things. So uh,
Nice.
I see myself not as like an educator, but it's like, hey, here's my view on tech that everyone has their own point of view, but it's my spin, like my from my language, my tone of voice, my music, and then my key takeaways. So that's what
Nice.
I'm really passionate about.
Nice. I know we could keep going. We're over already as it is.
Oh man, I'm
But I
sorry.
just like we just no, 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 dude. Like we can probably. I'll definitely have you back again.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. So how can people find you? Where can people find you? Like, yeah, where you at?
Yeah, the best is my Instagram. Look, man, I'm a millennial, but yeah, maybe like Gen Z, Gen Alpha at this point, just because like I'm so used to using all the tools and I love them. So my Instagram handle's right there. I post these videos, so anyone who just wants to like learn more about the type of videos I make, or even you need inspiration to do that at your company too, like watch how the way I format the videos. So Instagram is the best. LinkedIn is cool too. Like but you know how LinkedIn's like super professional. People get kind of like, oh, I don't even have a LinkedIn, which is mind-boggling to me. Like you're trying to get in this industry, you don't have a LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So but if you have an Insta, like you can definitely DM me, just let me know. Hey, I heard you on Rico's show and I had some questions and I help. And like another before we go, I just want to say I talk at colleges and I always talk about you. If you need help, like look at a resume. I can look, I can give you 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The funny part is people always want to chat, they never follow up. And so that's correlating in my
Mm.
head. Like, I don't think you want this bad enough because I mean, you talk about your parents' journey and your journey and my journey, dude. I will hound people. I used to email the people on like when I was interviewing and I saw the names of the people on my interview panel. You go under LinkedIn, you find their
Yep.
Twitter, you find anything to make a connection. Like, if you want something bad enough, you'll do it. And if you're not my person, that's why we hire, like you said, state schools, scrappy. This is what scrappy means. Maybe you're not the smartest, but you will find what you have at, like you will find different ways to get an advantage or find some data to help you out and succeed. So that kind of encompasses this whole conversation. Like you may not you're transitioning careers, you're just starting. Yeah, you're at a disadvantage, but are you? Like you can still be scrappy. You have the internet.
Yep.
It's the ultimate like like leveler.
Yeah. This
Stop.
generation, man, the internet is so it connects everybody. And yeah, one thing you said, right? Like, um, it doesn't matter if you're not like the smartest because the school you went to. The only reason why is because you haven't been given the chance yet, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
I think everybody has the same is on an even playing field on how smart they can be or like how much they can experience they can get with something. Someone just needs to show you how and give you the opportunity. So I'm willing, Brian's willing. If you want it bad enough, and that's what I tell people, if you want it bad enough, we'll open doors for you, but you got to walk through it. We
I
can't
can't
walk
push you
through the
through the
door
door.
for you. Yeah.
I can't push you to the door, man. Like I'm busy doing my own thing and like other things in life, and but I left it open for you. You just got to get through it. You so
Yeah.
yeah. I hope this inspires someone to do it. And okay, I draw some really good nuggets in here for the
You
people that are
did.
really listening.
Yeah, you did, you did, and thank you again for taking your time to be with us here. We'll definitely have you back again. Follow his channel. I'm at Bryan Villa. The links will be in the show notes.
Yeah,
Whatever links he sends me, they'll be dropped in the show notes, so you can
boom,
find them
boom.
anywhere, anytime. All right, thank you all for joining me. Thanks again, Brian. We'll see you in the next one.
Later, y'all. Bye.
Thank you for checking out Creative Leadership with Heart. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed the episode. We have a lot more content coming out. So if you do subscribe, you'll get notified when we have new episodes. All right, take it easy. See you in the next one.